Let's see if the cameras are working. Oh, we are working. We are live. I think we're live. I'm going to check on Facebook again. I'm such a rookie, I swear. Every time I do this, because I don't want to start talking and then have to redo this. So,
are you going on the Andrew Davis page?
Andrew Davis's page. I don't even know that. Yeah, we're live. Quick. I'm here. It's December 19th in Australia. It's December 18th in Texas. Welcome to Flex with Tex. I'm here with Andrew Wild at Wild Physio Fitness on the gram.
On the gram?
This is the second week in a row I'm having him back. I really enjoyed our talk last week, and I believe that we have some fire that we're going to bring to you today because we are going to be talking about diets. The infamous diet talk. That stuff that nobody wants to talk about, the gray area. I've struggled with diet my whole life. I had some eating disorders I guess I was probably like 17 when I developed the eating disorders, and I can tell you that I can attribute misinformation, lack of education and knowledge, and laziness to attribute to my eating disorder. So I was an athlete, college athlete. I did some MMA, a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I always wanted to have the perfect body, but I've always been a very thick individual. I've always been thick. I've just always been that way.
A lot of muscle mass?
Yeah, I've always had a lot of muscle mass.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing, but
Yeah.
I've also always wanted to be more of a technical athlete, and I've always drifted more towards the power strong athlete.
Yeah.
Always the power hitter.
The sport will choose the athlete rather than the athlete choosing the sport.
That's exactly right, man.
It's so true.
It is true, but
you do stuff you're good at.
I was a scratch golfer, though.
You've been down the scratch.
I'm a scratch golfer,
I've got
man.
some two good golfers here. I was off one.
Yeah, were you really?
Back in the day, I won't play that now.
My claim to fame, I tore my MCL about 3 years ago doing a front squat. Didn't tear it. I probably strained it really bad.
Yeah.
Didn't really actually get an MRI.
That's a good effort.
Yeah. Very good effort. Just very bad hip tightness that day. I tried forcing my knee out and just kind of went a little too far. Anyway, so when I hurt my knee, I had to do something to get away from the gym, but to stay athletic-ish competition. So I used to play golf in high school. So I decided to go to the country club. I signed up for a 6-month membership, and I literally lived at the golf course every single day for 6 months. Putted and chipped every morning, played 9 to 18 holes every morning, went to work, and then came back around 4 or 5 o'clock every day and played more golf. So didn't get much work done, but I did lots of golf.
It's a good thing. It's a great game. You got obsessed. You got the vibe.
Yeah, but then I literally played for 6 months, got into my club championship, got third in my club championship, and then I got my handicap down to scratch. I was shooting.
How old were you?
This was like 2 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
awesome. I'm going to go have a game. Sure.
We need to do that. Actually, I'm going to the States this next week, and I'm going to bring my clubs back with me.
Yeah, awesome.
So I built a custom set of not Cleveland. Oh my God.
Callaway?
No, my God, I cannot remember what. Mizuno MP. I have some
Oh,
MP63 blades. They're sick.
The Japanese make them nice.
Sick. Mizunos are sick, man. They're beautiful forged clubs.
Yeah.
My favorite set of clubs I've ever had, and I've played like 2 rounds with them, and then I left.
We should do a golfing podcast.
We should. Anyway, so I got down to scratch. I was shooting. I could go out and I could shoot 65 one day. I could shoot 70. Yeah, anywhere from 65 to 75. But
I'm gonna have to start practicing.
Yeah, probably not. I'll probably shoot 85 now. Let's be honest. It's all about putting, man. Short game. And when you're practicing every day, man, you just get that down.
It's all the greens in the world, but if you can get up and down, we can start putt.
Plus, if you can smash a 350-yard drive and you're putting and chipping like 90% of the time, you can score.
Yeah,
I can hit a ball pretty far away.
Oh,
but anyway, I developed the eating habits because I had a lot of misinformation. I didn't know what to eat. I thought that you had to eat fat-free food. I used to actually buy fat-free meals from the grocery store when I was in college because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And I can blame laziness and misinformation, lack of credible resources, I could say.
Yeah.
There was a lot more bullshit out on the internet, and there still is.
It's probably harder to find back then as well.
Yeah, it is harder to find good information back then. And then I didn't really know any credible resources at that time.
Yeah.
And there wasn't anybody really out in the industry at that time that were giving out free content.
Yeah,
Everybody made you pay for it.
Exactly.
So I wasn't willing to pay for it. I didn't have the desire to learn at that time. I just wanted to go and lift heavy weights and be a personal trainer. So I developed an eating disorder because I wanted the six-pack abs and I wanted to lift heavy, and I just didn't know. So we're going to talk about diets today and kind of break down that, because I was an athlete. I was around people who understood things like this, and I still lack the information and knowledge to make proper eating decisions.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the biggest issue that we face when it comes to dieting?
Oh, look, there's a lot of misinformation out there, as you well said. The beauty of today is we have so much information, but that can also, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because a lot of people can have an opinion, and they can have an opinion based on something that they don't have any education, and they really shouldn't be listened to. So, look, Instagram, Facebook, these type of things are great, but it's very much a double-edged sword, and you've got to be careful who you follow, because you could hear something that could really derail you for a long period of time. And
Potato. They would take the potatoes in the UK.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that.
Yeah, like there's often too much information. I feel sorry for the general public at times, because there's just so much information and people giving out certain advice that it's confusing. You know, who do I trust? If I didn't know what I knew and I had a look online, how would I know who to trust? Who would I follow? Who would I believe? So you've got to find someone that is obviously scientific. They're going to use evidence-based content, and you need to get to a point where you're focusing more on them rather than anyone else that's creating an opinion. That's
you can't do it from a lot of broad different sources, because they all have conflicting ideas, and then you're screwed.
Exactly, you know, and that's why I follow the people I follow, purely because it's scientific content, and they use evidence-based to educate the public, educate us, and they know how to deliver it in a certain way, so we can understand it, and so the general public can understand it. So
scientific terms, man. Like growing up, I used to get so pissed off, and I was a school teacher for 5 years, and I purposely didn't speak to my kids a certain way, because I understood that it didn't make sense to them, and the common sense is the way to go, and just dumb it down. And use key words that people understand, and don't use scientific phrases, because it's just validation almost.
100%, and it's ego as well.
It's ego and validation.
I tear my hair out when I'm at a gym or something like that, and you hear personal trainers or whoever's training someone, and they're using really technical terms, like don't go into hyperextension.
Yeah, fuck that.
You don't need to tell people that.
That's why I say do this, don't do this.
Yeah.
I point to things, don't do this.
Or you show them how they move on video or something like that, and you'll be like, what do you think? Work it out yourself.
Right.
What do you think you need to do? Like, once they know the movement pattern or something, they're going to be able to critique themselves, and that is true learning rather than being told no.
Well, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
The old school way of learning is telling somebody and expecting them to understand that, but there's 3 different types of learners. There's audio, kinesthetic, and visual.
Yeah.
So if you're not able to to cue people with those 3 different cues and find out different ways to do that, you're not going to be as effective, and people don't really give a shit that the scientific terminology of a joint or a muscle or a bone. They don't really care. They just want to know what to do with it.
Exactly. I've talked about this before. The extrinsic versus intrinsic cues, and using something that's intrinsic, like switching on your transversus abdominis, something like that.
What is that?
If you tell someone that, they're just going to get confused. You don't need to give them that sort of information. Yes, it's important to feel the muscle switch on when you're doing certain exercises and getting that mind-muscle connection, but that's very much down the track a little bit once you've grooved a certain pattern. So an extrinsic cue is more sit down, hover above the dirty toilet seat for a squat. That's a really good cue.
Yeah,
People resonate
I like
with
that.
It's a really good one.
Actually, like that.
You hinge, then you're sitting down in between your feet. That's what you're doing, and you're hovering above the dirty toilet seat to get down into that squat. Or
what about drawing the pelvic floor up? What do you use for
that? There's a few things. For guys, the best thing is suck your nuts to your guts.
Ooh, I like that. I actually just did it. Ooh, I just did that. Sorry to give you a visual.
For guys, it works beautifully. But again, the whole pelvic floor Look, it's important. Don't get me wrong, but
You don't need a Mindray DP50 to find the pelvic floor. You sure about that?
you know,
Electrotherapy.
slip the digit.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of different cues to switch on the pelvic floor, but for guys, that is awesome. Like the nuts to guts, like immediately, there's you can resonate with that.
What about holding a poo in?
Holding a poo in, it's a little bit different.
Does that turn on the what do you call? Oh my God, obliques too much?
Not necessarily. What you're trying to do is obviously draw upwards. Yeah. But
so that means
the core itself, if we actually have we're getting definitely off track from nutrition here.
Oh shit.
The
core
nutrition itself is obviously from the pelvic floor all the way up to the diaphragm.
Yeah, right.
So if you don't know how to control your diaphragm, if you don't know how to obviously integrate that with the pelvic floor, well, you kind of bang your head up against a brick wall. So it's not necessarily, there's too much focus on the pelvic floor in my opinion. I think we need to think about it more as a whole.
Yeah, right.
Rather than just focusing on the pelvic floor and thinking that is going to prevent injury.
So think of it as a whole unit as opposed to each individual element.
Correct.
It's like switching on this, and this. Yeah. You should all do it together.
Correct. It should be.
Makes sense.
It's obviously slightly different, like postpartum.
Yeah.
And once they've had kids and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
like
the ab separation and all that.
Yeah, you get the rectus diastases.
That's
so
crazy,
that's just a separation.
Is that where the line comes from?
Yeah, so we've got this thing in the middle that separates our six-pack called the linea alba, and what happens in the pregnancy is it can actually separate slightly. So
then the skin actually stretches and it creates a line.
Well, the line itself, or the divot, I suppose, is literally the separation of the six-pack muscles.
Makes sense.
It's the linea aspera is just slightly wider, so that's kind of like connective tissue.
Yeah, right.
And
it's a different color typically because it's not ever been exposed, really, I guess.
Well, the true test is 2 to 3 fingers.
Yeah, right.
Of separation, but so for women, especially after that, and also just postpartum in general, like yes, more of your pelvic floor training is very important, but again, you just don't want to isolate it and say, okay, lie on your back for the next 4 weeks and just do this.
They've been doing enough of that already. Did I say it out loud? That was autocorrect. Let's talk. Let's keto diet. Let's talk about the keto diet. So let's first identify what the keto diet is.
Yep.
Let's talk about who it's for, and let's talk about the misconceptions with it and why certain people fail, I guess. Or the biggest limitation to the keto diet. So let's talk first, what is the keto diet in your words?
Keto diet is where you're limiting your carbohydrate intake and you're eating high protein and high fat.
Give us a percentage.
By definition, a keto diet would be 20 to 50 grams.
So that's like 5%.
Or less.
5 to 10%.
It would depend on the budget.
Obviously, right.
For me, I can maintain my weight on 4,000 calories, so my budget's higher.
You eat 4,000 calories? Are you kidding me?
To maintain.
You are a very tall unit.
I'm tall, but I'm I've done the right thing for a long period of time, and I've consistently eaten very well and eaten at a high caloric input. So, and also my output's very high. Yeah,
I was about to say, you're like me, dude. I can't even imagine what I'm spitting out every day.
Yeah,
it's insane.
So by definition, to be in ketosis, you need to be under 50 grams of carbohydrate per day. So 20 to 50 grams of carbs. So it's not much at all.
So and just to educate people who don't understand, where most people get their energy source from on a daily basis is from the carbohydrate, correct?
It's the quickest.
It's the quickest energy source.
Yeah,
so it's we
were talking off air before, and the number one energy source elite marathon and distance runners use is they use carbohydrates as their fuel source, and up to 60%, and this has been shown by science, but roughly 60% of their total daily intake is carbohydrates, and that's at that elite level. And the reason why is because it's obviously very, very quick. So you're having
that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It makes sense.
Yeah. So obviously they're running long distances and they're doing a heap of exercise, and their outputs are very high.
And I can't imagine what their carb intake is though on some of these ultra marathons.
Yeah, it must be high.
It's got to be so high.
Yeah, it must be
because you burn through it so quick.
It depends on obviously how big the person is, but they might be consuming anything from 300.
So keto not good for ultra marathon runners.
Look, I wouldn't recommend it. It's not saying that someone couldn't adapt to the point where they're competing quite well, but there was a recent analysis done on a triathlete that Alan Aragon posted, and it was the triathlete was a woman, and she went on to keto, and her results over that corresponding season reduced considerably. So you're reducing an effective dose of glucose, and you're reducing the amount of carbohydrate you have regularly in your system. So you're not going to be able to compete at a high level if you're keto as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I could see that. It makes sense. And look at it from the complete opposite standpoint, bodybuilders. So I was always, let me be completely honest. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a dietitian. This is just knowledge that I've picked up from people who are. Yeah. The carbohydrates probably the most important macronutrient when it pertains to building muscle.
Well, there's only so much protein you can have.
Exactly. So there has to be something that makes that happen as well, fuels that whole process, correct? Yeah. And that's where
you want muscle cell glycogen.
Right.
So how are you going to do that?
Right, exactly.
You obviously need to fuel it. The keto diet, it's not bad. Try it if you want. The problem with the keto diet is it's not very sustainable. A lot of people struggle with it, and we've talked about it last week. You know, what type of people would do well on the keto diet? Epileptics, because it reduces seizures.
Exactly.
And also we talked about obviously the military, so Navy SEALs and Marines. It's being used in that because they become fat adapted and they don't have to rely on regular carbohydrate intake to maintain their energy, or how good they feel, I suppose, for long periods because they don't have access to food.
Sure. Would you consider it as a catalyst to somebody losing weight and then maybe developing better eating habits from that?
It teaches, the keto diet itself teaches quite good habits in regards to, you're eating a high protein diet.
Foods with lots of satiety.
Yeah. And you're eating fat. Fat is good. We need it. It's really important.
I used to think that fat was bad.
Yeah, it's
so crazy.
Fat's super important.
It's vital.
It's vital. Yeah, it's absolutely vital.
Yeah.
So it teaches good principles, and what you're doing is you're pretty much eliminating a macronutrient.
Yeah, exactly.
So from there, what you're doing is you're eliminating calories. So again, what are you trying to achieve? Right. You're trying to achieve a calorie deficit. So the research pretty much tells us, as long as calories, protein, and fiber are equated,
yes,
it doesn't matter whether you go low carb or low fat.
Sure. So
it doesn't matter.
They're interchangeable. Yeah.
That's for body composition. So it doesn't really matter. As long as you're equating calories, protein, and fiber, it doesn't matter whether you go low fat or low carb. Pretty much at the end of the day, go low fat or low carb depending on what you like.
Exactly.
Personally, I love carbs.
I
love carbs.
Yeah.
I much prefer to have a carb meal or something carby than fatty. That's just taste preference.
I don't know. I may be opposite. I love savory food. I love meats and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would never be someone that would go for something that's really juicy and fatty. I'm not a massive fan of. I'm not huge on eggs and the yolk, and I'm not huge on avocados. I love avocado. Mayonnaise, oh my god, that sort of stuff.
Maybe I should be keto.
Yeah, you could. maybe keto.
I think I accidentally have been keto before.
Yeah, you mentioned that before. Yeah. So at the end of the day, look, try it if you want, but the number one factor to consider with any diet or exercise plan is sustainability. And if you're not going to adhere to the diet long term,
it's not going to work.
It's not going to work. You know,
it takes a good 40 days to get into ketosis anyway, doesn't it?
It takes a fair time,
unless you're using ketones or something to speed that process up. But there are supplementations that help that process.
I couldn't comment on that. It's going to take some time. Yeah, you're not just going to become keto adapted within a week.
Right.
You're going to have to stay on it. And how long? Look, I'd say probably at least 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Maybe even longer.
Yeah, right.
3 months.
Because you're going to screw
up. What was that?
If you screw up, does it completely reset it? Depending on how bad you screw up.
Yeah, it would depend on how bad you screw up. But the other thing with keto, why would you want to go keto?
How fucking boring would that be, dude?
Why would you want to go keto?
Dude, it'd be so boring.
You're eliminating so much fun stuff.
Yeah.
And if you're eliminating all the it all the research tells us that if people have a reward every now and then,
Yeah, right. It's good.
It's good for
Yeah.
sustainability.
Yeah, sure.
So you are potentially limiting the amount of reward you can potentially have with a keto diet. And a lot of keto people, people that do keto diet will say, these keto cookies and all this sort of stuff. Try them.
Yeah,
They
right.
don't taste the same.
They taste like shit.
Put a keto cookie versus a normal cookie, and you'll have the keto cookie will throw
but
in
if you've only ever had keto cookies, it'd probably be really good.
That's true, but no one grows up having the keto diet
true.
as well. Like we're all carb adapted per se. Like it's very unlikely that anyone would have grown up on any type.
Can you imagine like a bunch of people at like a dinner party and then like they look at the keto guy and they're like, oh, he's keto. He's like separated from the table. It's like eating a steak and everybody's eating a donut.
Like vegan.
Yeah. So just to recap, the keto diet, low carb, very high fat, high protein, low carb as far as like 5% carb.
Yeah, gram-wise, 20 to 50
grams.
grams and less.
Yeah.
Like that, by definition, you need to be that low. If you're higher than that, close to 100 grams per day, you are technically not in ketosis per se, and you're not on the keto diet. It's a brutally hard diet to stick to, but
I have a buddy.
If it works for you, go for it.
I have a buddy in Texas that's been on it for 2 years, and he's lost so much weight. Looks great. He's fantastic. He's happy. You can tell he's super energetic. It works for some people, and at the end of the day, you choose your diet for a goal. And if your goal is weight loss and, you can sustain the keto diet, then I'll, go for it. But the problem is, like we said before, the adherence to it is the ticket.
Correct.
And I would say the vast majority of people aren't disciplined enough or even educated enough to be able to stick with it for that long.
Yeah, and it's also hard when you're going out for dinner or you're going on holidays or something like that.
Not sociable diet.
It's exactly a non-sociable diet. It's tricky to go out and have a meal on the keto diet. What are you going to consume? You're going to have to be a little bit picky with things, and as you said, potentially it's going to make you unsociable. Yeah, you might distance yourself from social situations because you're concerned that you can't go keto.
Yeah, right.
I'm not a huge fan of it, but look, as I said,
if it works for you,
and
if you're epileptic, go for it.
Yeah, and if you're epileptic, or as we said, if you're a Marines, Navy SEAL, potentially go for it. See how you go. If you become keto adapted, obviously you're going to be reducing your reliance on carbohydrates, and that's a good thing. If you
don't be a bodybuilder. Don't be a bodybuilder
on keto. Look, it'd be hard.
If you're a bodybuilder on keto, just send me a message. I'd love to talk to you. And my friend. Just decided that he's going to go keto and do a bodybuilding comp back in the States. And I wanted to send him a message and ask him if he's actually read up on it and he understands it, because in theory it may sound great. And there may be somebody he's seen on Instagram that's keto and a bodybuilder, but it's not going to work for everybody.
Yeah, look, he could do quite well. You never know. Yeah,
I just don't, if you're building muscle, I feel like the carbohydrate is so important.
Yeah, it is, but I suppose it's still, if you're in that surplus and you're trying to build muscle and you're in that surplus and the protein's equated, calories, the only problem is obviously with such a low carbohydrate intake, obviously fiber is going to be very hard. So
digestion's going to be screwed up a little bit.
Potentially, obviously, you're not getting enough fiber for your digestive system.
Well, I hope it works for him. I hope he does really well in his competition. I'd like to see. I'm going to follow up with him and see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll follow up in 2 years.
2 years. All right. Not. Let's move on to the next one. I wanted to talk about the paleo diet, actually. And the reason is because when I got into CrossFit like 5-6 years ago, that was the diet that I thought was like the answer to all my problems. So if you're not familiar with the paleo diet, it's the caveman diet, the lean meats, green leafy vegetables, nuts, berries, seeds, fruits, little starch, no sugar, pretty much. Did I say that right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's pretty much it.
Eating like a caveman.
Eating like a caveman, so just like a forager. And I'll be completely honest, I completely agree with the foraging diet, because the original sapiens in the world, like we talked last week, foraged and ate a very, very broad diet. But what are your thoughts on the paleo diet and it being applicable to, I guess, weight loss?
It's the same with any diet, though. We've talked about sustainability, and it's also just trying to create a calorie deficit. So if a paleo diet works for you and you can sustain a calorie deficit and you can hit the goal that you want to hit in terms of weight loss, go for it.
But it's not the holy grail of dieting.
It's not the holy grail, and it's not special. It's not.
Why did it go so big with CrossFit? I just don't get it.
I'm not sure.
I just don't get it.
I think it's that whole notion of, hey, bro, I eat clean.
Bacon.
I eat clean.
Clean, bro.
You don't eat clean.
Macros.
Yeah, it's just the paleo diet itself. It teaches good principles.
Yes.
Because it's high protein.
Yes.
You're eating good fats. You're eating animal products, and you're eating nuts.
It demonizes sugar, though, man.
It demonizes sugar, which is a bit of a problem.
I don't like that shit.
We can talk about the sugar problem in a sec, but it does teach good principles of eating well, as in nutrient-dense foods, high protein. You're eating good things regularly.
Yeah.
You're eating high fiber. So it does teach good principles, but is it the secret to fat loss? No. Calorie deficit is. So, look, if you like it, go for it.
Yeah, right.
I have no problem with that, but you shouldn't be biased about something like paleo or keto.
And you shouldn't talk crap about sugar.
Yeah,
you shouldn't walk around like a caveman and acting like a caveman while you eat it.
Well, walking around and doing more movements good.
Actually, I take it back. You should, but you shouldn't. Yeah, the mentality of the caveman.
Yeah,
you shouldn't beat people up. And yeah,
it's not special. And again, potentially, there's that social isolation. You're going out for dinner and that sort of thing, and you're like, oh, how do I go paleo here?
Again, the guy in the corner with a group of people dining, the paleo guy's in his caveman outfit, and we're all making fun of him, his beard.
Yeah, and a lot of people do it because they want to be part of something.
Yeah, I know. I was, man. I was so misinformed. I developed an eating disorder, and I got jumped on diets like the paleo diet because I thought it literally was the holy grail of dieting. So, just misinformation.
It's misinformation, exactly. And it's nothing special. Do it if you like it. And again, try it.
So
if you try it and you like it, stick with it. But if you can't stick with it, don't do it.
Adherence and sustainability,
so
or the same thing. Okay, so we've talked about keto, we've talked about paleo. What about? Let's talk about if it fits your macros.
Yeah, so I love flexible dieting myself.
Yes, me too. I'm a flex dieter.
Yeah,
big time. 100%.
The reason why is because it's quite sustainable because you can have a bit of fun with it, and the rule that I use is 70 to 80% of your food per day or your consumption should be nutrient dense.
Yes.
So good food. So we're talking lean cuts and meat. We're talking complex carbs.
That means if you're a flex dieter and you're out there, that doesn't mean just fill your freaking body with shit all day.
No, exactly.
That's ridiculous.
70 to 80% of the time you're eating well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then 20 to 30% you have a bit of fun with. And if it fits your macros, well, go for it. Go for it. So if you want to have a bit of ice cream, that's fine, as long as it fits your macros. And a good way to put it in terms of diet is everyone has a different dieting budget. So
think of it as a weekly budget, yeah?
Yeah, a weekly budget, yeah. Okay. So my budget versus your budget, what would you maintain on?
I'm about 3,600.
Okay, so Andrew maintains on 3,600. I maintain on probably about 4,000. Mm-hmm. So my budget's slightly higher. So I can afford to buy something a little bit more expensive, if you use that analogy. But if a girl if she only could have, say, 2,000 calories to maintain her weight, she's got a very, very low budget.
Yeah, right.
Comparatively to me, it's half. So I can go and buy a sports car, but she should probably buy a Corolla.
It's a good analogy.
Great analogy, because I can go out for dinner and I can have a more calorie-dense meal than her and still get away with it because my budget is higher.
Yeah.
So, and women are going to have a lower budget.
Yes, of
course,
100%. Yeah.
They're smaller. The metabolic rate is lower comparatively to men because we are bigger. We have more mass. We have more muscle mass. We're just bigger humans, so we're going to burn more at rest. So the budgeting idea, and that is a really important concept to get through your head because everyone's budget is different. So you've got to find what your budget is.
Yeah.
And then
how do you find your budget?
How do you find your budget? So there's a few ways to do it, but the easiest way is calorie calculators online. So
TDE calculator?
Yeah, TDEE calculator.
Total daily energy expenditure.
There's a few out there, Harris Benedict, Mifflin Sitjor, there's a couple out there like that work quite well, but it is an estimate.
Exactly.
There's
There's a lot of factors.
There's a lot of factors.
Yeah.
So we do the estimate, and from there, what you do is you track for a few weeks.
And then it's literally tracking and then manipulating and just
Correct.
fixing it,
Yeah.
because like you're not a robot. Like we're not going to give you the input and it's just identical, exactly what you need. You have to
Exactly.
play around with it a little bit.
Like if it spits out you are going to maintain on 2,000 and you track for 2 weeks and you consume 2,000 but you lose weight, by
Obviously,
definition you're in a
you're
deficit. If you maintain weight, that means 2,000 is
about
your
right.
maintenance. And if you put on weight, well,
It's a little
you're in
high.
surplus. So you need to then make adjustments to find either a deficit, maintenance, or surplus depending on your goal. So that's the best way of doing it.
It's just like one size doesn't fit all, one diet doesn't fit all, one set of macronutrient or calories doesn't fit all.
Exactly.
You just got to play around with it.
So, as I've said before, you've got to, obviously, once you've got those 2,000 calories, say for instance, it spits that out, as long as you're equating calories, protein, and fiber, and you're hitting those three,
Yeah,
the fats and the carbs don't matter in terms of body composition.
right.
So you can manipulate how you like.
Are
and
there?
Then,
Go ahead.
and then from there, so say for instance, you were gaining weight on 2,000, then what you do is you do a 10 to 20% decrease
Right.
in caloric input to then find your deficit.
Right. That makes sense. Are there certain times of the month that females would be more susceptible to weight gain?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So would you manipulate the diet?
You can,
Okay.
you definitely can. So the problem with it sometimes is obviously the periods for women can be very irregular.
That's what I was going to say. So
Yeah.
this is more, would you say it's more difficult for a woman to sustain a diet than it is a male? Challenging? Challenging?
It can be because obviously in certain time during obviously that menstrual cycle, at certain times they're going to be hungrier.
Two
Depending
dudes
on where they
talking
are.
about menstrual cycles.
Yeah.
Wednesday
good.
morning.
It's important to understand though.
It
because
varies. Some people
they
discredit
are-
males for talking about these reproductive function or female function.
Yeah.
But I think it's important that males understand the process too.
For sure. And they're going to get hungry in certain stages of their cycle. And obviously as well with testing. So if you ever wanted to test someone, so a woman, you do it early
Yeah,
in their
right.
cycle
Makes
before.
sense.
So day 14 is ovulation. You do it before that. So pretty much after they're through the PMS cycle. So they're fresh because in that cycle back there, in that luteal phase, they've got a greater chance of injury.
Yeah,
and they're not
right.
going to perform well.
Yeah, sure.
So-
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's insane about the performance thing.
Yeah,
It's so crazy.
and I've done a lot of work with ACL reconstructions over the years in my physio work, and there's a greater risk of an ACL in that area of that time period of their menstrual cycle. So they're at greater risk there. So do you change your variables in terms of the loading with their training program?
Yeah, right, yeah,
Yes, potentially.
but not
Especially in change of direction sports. So say for instance netball, that sort of stuff.
because change of direction is going to be your highest probability of injury.
For an ACL injury,
Okay.
yeah. So the greatest risk is non-contact valgus. So a non-contact valgus is where you're trying to change direction very quickly, and your knee buckles in, and then you get a
That makes sense.
Yeah,
That's how I
and
tore my
then-
MCL. I
yeah,
believe.
right.
I believe so.
Yeah, so rotational element to the knee, and then from there you can snap the ACL. So your diet can change because girls are going to get hungry in certain times during their menstrual cycle. So you can spike and decrease.
But as long as the calories are in place, they're fine.
Yeah, so if you I suppose over those 28 days, if you equated the calories for those 28 days, if they're still
It's in balance.
in balance, it's fine. And it's
Okay.
the same, this is another thing I promote is if you're going out on a Friday night, leave calories up your sleeve for...
It's like saving for a vacation.
Yeah, exactly. Because, if you've got a really high dieting budget of 4,000 calories, that means you can still eat reasonably okay during the day and you have your protein and your fiber, but you leave some fats and carbs up your sleeve for alcohol.
Because you're going to have liquid calories on the weekend, just like
Correct.
most people do. And this is
Exactly.
where most people screw their diets
Oh,
up.
massively.
I think this is where it's
they
at.
do this great work during the week for 5 days
Right.
and then they screw it up
Yeah,
on the
right.
weekends. So on the weekends, what you should do, what I recommend is you focus on protein each meal, reduce your fats and carbs, and if you're going to have some drinks, your drinks, which is the alcohol, which is calorie dense, is going to replace your fats and carbs.
Just do
not
drugs.
protein.
Drugs don't have any calories. Actually, don't do
We
that.
don't advocate that.
Well, I didn't advocate that. That was just a joke. That was autocorrect.
Um,
Okay, let's move to another diet. Let's move to intermittent fasting, IF.
Yeah, intermittent fasting works only because you're reducing your feeding window.
Yeah, so basically the intermittent fasting, let's talk about the 5-2 diet. That means you're eating normal calories 5 days out of the week, and then 2 days out of the week, you're going to drop your calories down to like 600, 500, 600.
Yeah.
This works, people, because you're creating a massive deficit for 2 days out of the week,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to make up for the other 5 days.
Correct. Yeah.
So,
Weekly calories trump daily calories.
Yeah.
So you're tracking your weekly, and this is why you can cycle your calories through the week. So some people like to put
surplus, massive deficit,
Correct.
surplus.
The other way you could do it is some people like higher amount of calories on training days. So if they train Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they might do high calorie days those 3 days, and then they do lower calorie days on the days that they don't train.
Yeah, right.
That's the other way you can do it. So you're cycling through different calorie inputs per week, but your total for the week is still the same.
Well, what's the other one? The 17? Is it 17? Where you only eat in a certain window? What's the time?
Oh, like 16.
It has a name. I even did like
sure.
a 16, 8? Would it be 8 and 16?
Yeah,
that's what 16-8 diet is.
By definition, that's still intermittent fasting.
It's fasting 16 hours a day and then eating in an 8-hour window.
Yeah.
The reason this works is because
that would be termed an intermittent fasting.
Yeah, because it's hard to consume all of your daily calories or go into a surplus in 8 hours. That means you're eating a massive amount of food in a very short window, which is going to create a deficit. In theory, I'm sure you can still screw up on IF. I'm sure people do, because on the 5-2 diet, if you massively overconsume calories on those 5 days, and it supersedes the 500 calorie on the other 2 days, then you're going to be in a surplus for the week.
Exactly.
Look at it as a week and not as a daily thing, because if you look at it as daily thing, it's just too hard.
And you can manipulate your calories as well. So,
and if you screw up the last day of the week, you're fucked.
Yeah, a lot of people will do that. They'll get to a Friday or Saturday and they'll have way too many calories, and they're like, "Oh my god, I've completely blown it. I can't get back to neutral."
Right, and then they're just like, screw it.
Like, say for instance, you go 500 calories over on a Friday because you've gone out that night. The next day, just reduce it by 500 or reduce it by 250 the next 2 days, and you're back to neutral. Happy days.
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think the number one reason why people fail their diet is alcohol. Maybe not number one, but it's got to be the top 3.
It is a big one. And if you have a look at so Layne Norton quotes this a lot. We don't have a weight loss problem, we have a weight regain problem. So 85% or 6 out of 7 people that are overweight or obese will lose a huge chunk of weight during their life.
Yeah, right.
But after 3 years, 95% of them have put it all back on, and 2/3 have put more on.
Is that because they've dropped it so quick? Or is that just because of their lifestyle?
There's a few factors here. So
some root factors there, like depression and stuff like that.
A couple of factors that we need to consider here is obviously the diets that they're potentially sticking to. So we're talking like fad diets, that sort of thing. They're not learning anything.
Right. They're just they're following rules, but they're not really learning the principles of it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like they're doing a fad diet. They're doing the fad diet. They're losing heaps of weight really quickly. They get to the desired weight. Because they haven't learned anything, they get massive weight regain very quickly.
Biggest loser would come to mind on this.
Yeah. So they're losing a heap of weight really quickly, and then they're putting it on very quickly.
This is why they don't do after shows like the year after, because all those people actually go back and are worse off than they started.
Exactly. Yeah. And there has been a study done where they compared. So they did it on rats. Rats are actually quite a good subject purely because humans aren't very compliant. Rats are. Where they underfed calories. They put them in a deficit for a long period of time, and then they refed the actual the rat very quickly. So what happened was we found that they got a bit of hyperplasia, which means that they created more fat cells to get back to neutral.
That makes sense.
It does.
It's the body trying to go into homeostasis, isn't it?
To a degree, yeah. So by definition, you can't get rid of a fat cell.
That makes sense.
And you can't you can't get another fat cell.
Okay.
But some of the research tells us that potentially there is a hyperplasic element to...
Meaning they're there already, but they're just like being attracted or something?
So they are it's getting to the point where, so you're in a deficit for long periods of time, you're a certain body weight, and then you start to refeed very quickly.
Makes sense.
And the body's trying to get back to homeostasis, as you were saying, so get back to a normal body fat percentage. And potentially what happens is people actually create another fat cell. Okay, so normally your fat cells should stay constant in terms of how many you've got in your body from adolescence, and they don't change.
Never.
They can get bigger, they can get smaller,
Okay.
but people that are consistently going on fat diets where they're going down really quickly and then refeeding quickly, and this is potentially with, say, competitors with physique and that sort of stuff, if they're dieting down to such a low body fat and then they're refeeding very quickly, you can actually get to the point where you're creating more fat cells, so you've got more fat cells.
Literally creating a fat cell.
Yeah, and all we're trying to do here, or what's the body's trying to do is, it's like, hang on, we don't like that famine. I don't like that famine. I'm going to actually increase how much fat we've got here, or increase how many fat cells we have, potentially.
It's almost like antibodies. Like attacking like a disease almost.
Kind of, yeah. We're trying to get back to neutral.
Are they replicating?
Yeah, so we're getting more of them. But this is based on preliminary data. And
right, this
isn't like, we haven't done a human study per se that I've heard of.
I'm sure they have.
If anyone has data on this, I'd love to see it. But the rat study showed that it can, the rats can actually
That's insane.
gain fat cells, which is going to increase the amount of fat they can effectively put back on.
So if we have a bunch of rats out in the city that are refeeding, we're going to have a problem.
We're going to have a big
Maybe
problem.
a massive problem. Okay, let's move on to another diet. Crap, I was going to say something.
I think just quickly back to that. So why do diets fail? Diets fail because they're not sustainable, and people don't get taught the proper way to sustainably diet, and they don't understand what's in food. So quantity is king. Yep. Everyone understands within reason what quality is, as in meats are good. They know what vegetables are good, blah blah blah. But the thing is that people don't understand, and no one gets taught, and they should get taught at school, is quantity. So,
energy balance.
Exactly, energy balance, and what's in food. You're sitting down to a meal. Okay, how many grams of protein, fat, and carbs are in that meal? And a lot of people don't understand this. Actually, I would change that. Most people don't understand this. So you need to educate people to the point where they're becoming more reliant on their own eating habits.
The amount.
Yeah, exactly, the amount.
It's just simplicity. This is simplifying.
It's very simple.
This isn't like scientific. Like, this is simplification.
Exactly, it's simplification. But the other thing about it is it's habits. You've got to build the habit. If you don't build the habit to the point where it's just part of your life.
Exactly. You shouldn't have to think about it.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to
be intuitive. It should be intuitive.
It should get to that point, but it takes practice. And a lot of people give up so quickly these days with anything because everything's just right in front of us with Instagram, and we've got satisfaction straight away. So I think you've got to understand the value of quantity.
People are treating food like porn now.
Yeah. I think they always have. So finding something that works for you, so a sustainable diet. So if you can't see yourself being on it for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, don't do it. And learning what's in food is very, very, very important.
And have a play around with your intake.
Yeah, like you got to
learn
find
about
what works for you.
Yeah.
And it's very individual. So we've got a long way to go before we start to actually make big inroads in terms of the obesity epidemic.
Yeah, right.
And I think it starts at school. We need to change the schooling system.
Change the thought process and don't put Band-Aids on crap.
Correct, yeah. And the stats, as I was saying before, are pretty damning. Diets just don't work, they fail.
Yeah, and it's not your fault. It's typically the diet's fault because it's just not the one that you can sustain. So don't demonize diets because they didn't work for you. You don't demonize yourself because you failed it. It failed you.
Yeah.
And just to recap on dieting is energy balance. It's calories in versus calories out. You don't have to have a fad diet to lose weight. At the end of the day, it's the amount of food that you're putting into your body versus the amount of food that you're burning throughout the day.
Yes.
Find your total daily energy expenditure by going to Google and typing in TDEE calculator and literally going in. It takes 1 minute to find what it gives you as far as an average or a rough estimate or a starting point.
It's a starting point.
It's a starting point. And if you're trying to lose weight, you need a starting point. You cannot expect to just jump on a fad diet, choose your calories randomly, and just adhere to the principles of the diet and expect to lose weight, because at the end of the day, you could stick to the principles of any diet And if you're over consuming calories, you're not going to lose weight. It will not happen.
Yes, I completely agree. Yes, you need that energy balance is, if you're not losing weight, you're not in a deficit. It's that simple.
It's all about the calorie deficit. Whatever diet you choose should be one that you can adhere to and that you can sustain for a long period of time. And if you can do that, you have found the diet that works for you.
Agreed.
But it may not work for your neighbor Martha. It may not work for your cousin Billy. And if your cousin Billy or Martha is on a diet that works for them, those diets may not work for you.
Yeah.
So you need to figure out what works for you, and you need to stick with it long enough to actually get a result of some sort. And then you need to go over those results, use the scientific method that we were taught back in 4th grade, and redo it, restructure it, try something different, and then you can become an intuitive eater.
Yes.
And then you're not walking around in your daily life worrying and stressing out about what you're eating.
Yep.
You can go and enjoy life, spend time with doing things that you want to do, and not have that in the back of your mind. And then guess what? If you can do that, you can teach a friend how to do that.
Yeah.
And then that's what changes an epidemic.
Yeah, people that are successful with diets, they'll go out for dinner and that sort of thing, and they'll intuitively choose something that's low calorie.
And then they'll educate somebody else as well. I honestly think that if you want to change something, you have to be the change that you want to see.
Yeah.
And there's too many people out there spouting shit and talking about things that they shouldn't be talking about because they've read an article on Google or Facebook, or they have somebody they respect a lot that has told them something that's completely wrong. And that's how misinformation gets spread. And we need to stop spreading misinformation because we have plenty of that in our world right now.
We do. And the big thing with the diet itself is, as we were saying, just structure it how you want. Like, it's completely individual. That's that is a massive thing. You've got to find something that works for you.
Right.
It's not about what the Instagram star's doing or someone else is doing. You've got to find what works for you.
No, man, the lollipops that make you lose weight. Kim Kardashian told me I have like a whole pack of in Boom Bod. I've been drinking Boom Bod. I didn't even know what that was until I saw James do a video.
Yeah,
I didn't. Snorted it.
Is it a UK?
Yeah, I think it's a UK thing. Last thing. Andrew put up a post the other day, and I thought it was awesome. And this is a little controversial. I'm sure people will get pissed off about this, but it said women aren't supposed to have abs.
Six-pack.
Like six-pack.
A rippling.
A rippling six-pack with veins. And I'm going to I guess talk about like CrossFit girls. I've seen a massive change in CrossFit females as far as like protruded abs sticking out, the bloat gut, like the GH, like bodybuilder type of bloat gut. What's happening? Why are women not supposed to have a six-pack as far as shredded six-pack? Why is that?
Yeah, I think the CrossFit's a combination of things. You know, they are elite athletes.
Compound lifting, a massive amount of...
So they're building a hell of a lot of muscle. That's their focus. That's their sole focus, isn't it? Most of them is literally just training. So they can get to a lower body fat percentage and still be okay, not too bad. But by definition, women weren't designed to have rippling six-packs.
Makes sense.
They need to have more body fat than men.
Makes sense. Because of why? What's the...
Why? So you obviously... To survive childbirth is pretty much the simplest way to put it.
We're not saying and advocating that women are only here to give child.
No,
but your body, the body's evolved to be able to support that reproductive process.
Correct. And if you're at a really low body fat percentage, a lot of women don't get their periods.
Yeah, right.
And then obviously you can't fall pregnant. So a rippling six-pack is not the norm for women, and the fact that people think it is on Instagram is why I put that up.
Well, people attribute fitness to six-pack.
Yeah, like it's easier for a guy to, get a six-pack purely because we can cope with a lower body fat percentage than females, and our set point is lower in terms of body fat.
Yeah, right.
So women's body fat percentages should be higher. So within anything from about 18 to 23%.
Yeah, that's normal.
Kind of around.
An elite would be like 12%.
Yeah, and if you're down that low, and you can get to the point as I was saying where you're not having periods, and that ain't healthy.
Right.
And being that lean to the point where things are shutting down, because that's what's happening. You're shutting down. Your body's trying to get back to homeostasis.
This is the whole fitness good girl figure competitions, shit like that. This is
Yeah.
where most of these girls happens after the fact.
There are other factors that can obviously stop you having your periods.
Yeah.
And I talked about those yesterday in the post, polycystic ovarian syndrome, obviously pregnancy. You're not obviously going to get your period if you're pregnant. There are other, like thyroid malfunction, that sort of thing. But if everything else is okay, as in your doctor has said that everything else is A-okay within your body, and you not getting your period correlates with you getting leaner and really lean to the point where you're starting to see six-pack, well, potentially what you've got to do is bump those calories back up.
Right.
Because you obviously need a little bit more body fat to function a
Yeah,
little
right.
bit better. And the thing is, you're not getting your period because your body's like, hang on, I'm not going to be able to cope with childbirth here because I don't have enough fat. I'm going to stop having periods.
Yeah, right.
Okay? You're not going to be able to get pregnant if you're not having a period, by definition.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So,
yeah, I will say I'm 100% sold that when I see the girls with the abs like that, and even guys, and they have the protruded guts, I'm thinking growth hormone 100%, just because the bodies don't grow that way.
Yeah, a female on Instagram that you see that is ripped to the point where they look quote unquote manly, or they're
looking huge.
Yeah,
now,
like they've got
massive,
and they've got the 6 or 8 pack, and they're shredded, and
they're geared.
They're either geared or they've been in a calorie surplus for long periods with cuts.
Yeah.
So surplus cut until they get to
kind of like a bodybuilding.
Yeah, exactly. Or they're, as you said, they're on the gear. So
they're on the gear, people.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
Look, a lot of them are on the gear, and
guys and girls.
We talked about it last week in terms of girls
we did.
freaking out about getting bigger from weights. Well, you're not going to get bigger from weights if you're not in a big surplus.
You're smashing gear, you are.
Yeah, or if you're hitting a heavy gear. So, the protruded gut and the big six-pack on a woman, it's not normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, we weren't designed to have that. But look, if women want to have a six-pack and they cope with it, and they cope with it, and they feel okay, and they don't feel like shit, and they're not isolating themselves from social situations, and they're not freaking out about what they're eating, and they feel okay, and they're medically okay, go for it. I don't care.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, they're not designed by definition to have a rippling six-pack, are they?
Right. No, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense at all. Evolutionary, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I always try to speak everything on an evolutionary standpoint, not put my bias on it. Because when I got into an argument yesterday, not an argument, I got into a discussion. I put up that post about humans weren't built to run long distances, and somebody sent me a message about it and was like, I disagree with this. I was like, well, tell me why. And he said, I just read a book about an ultra marathoner, and I was like, okay, well, like, that's your reference? It's like a guy that, well, of course, if a guy that wrote an ultra marathon book talks about you were born to run, like, you're going to believe it. But I use the evolutionary standpoint as far as the Homo sapien and like the book. Yeah, Sapiens, the book Sapiens. Yeah. I used literally word for word what I was told or what I read from that. Yeah. And from an evolutionary standpoint, humans weren't supposed to run long distances, like sustain that every day, like constantly.
Do you know how the marathon started?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the marathon, I'll probably butcher it, but the place marathon is in Greece, and the guy that started the marathon ran from Marathon to Athens.
That's a name?
It's a name, I'm pretty sure. He ran 42.2 kilometers, whatever it was, to tell his commander at Athens that they need to bunker down and there's an enemy coming or whatever. And he got there, told the general or the commander or whatever, and died.
You're freaking kidding me, mate.
He dropped dead.
You're kidding
So he ran that far, dropped dead. So again, by definition,
so all these marathons are just tributes to this fallen guy.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's freaking hilarious. I want to read this.
It is amazing what the elite marathon runners can do.
I think it's great.
I think it's phenomenal.
Awesome. But from like a body, a physical standpoint, it's not good for you.
It's hard to do.
Good for you.
It's hard to do. I see day in day out people coming and seeing me for injuries that they've sustained from running.
Second highest injury rate in any sport in Australia.
Yeah, we talked about this last week, and it's just a tough slog.
Yeah.
Running 42 Ks is tough, and we were designed to walk for long periods and obviously
carry loads,
jog from A to B, but for 42 Ks, not really. We're designed to sprint quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
The marathon tough.
It's too much. I think that's it, dude. You want to end there? That's 55 minutes.
55 minutes.
Mhm.
One other thing.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
So a lot of people talk about tracking on MyFitnessPal and that sort of thing, and I saw this amazing analogy on Mylean Fitness probably about 6 months ago. And obviously, when you said the goal is intuitive eating, that's really important, getting to that goal where you can actually figure it out. And you don't necessarily need to track. This analogy is great. So when you're in the car and you're driving, say, along a road that's 60 kilometers an hour, you don't always have to look at the speedometer. But if you start to get speeding tickets, you probably need to look at the speedometer.
Dude, that's awesome, man.
So the same thing with dieting. If you're dieting and not tracking and you're putting weight on, you probably need to check it out and have a look on MyFitnessPal and start tracking again to see where you're going wrong.
Shameless plug for MyFitnessPal.
Yeah, exactly.
I love MyFitnessPal.
Oh,
I stopped having to
so
use it
easy.
though because I'm such an intuitive eater.
Yeah, I'm the same. I
know, like if I've eaten too much the next day, I know I have.
Yeah. The only time I ever use it now is if I go and have something that's really different, or I'm just kind of just.
I don't even care, dude. I just live my life, man. If I feel like shit, then I have to change something. If I don't, then I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing.
And you can kind of figure it out anyway. Like if once you get to our point, like you're intuitively eating quite well, and you know what's in food, you can work it out. And
it took me eating disorders.
It
took me meeting James. It took me meeting people like you. It took me doing all of the wrong things.
Yeah.
And getting to a point where I manipulated my body and like did some pretty harmful things that could possibly affect me later on down the road to get there. And I don't want people to do that. I want people to take our advice and go make better decisions and just educate yourself.
Yeah, that's a common story.
Yeah, man. And you know what? You know what's funny? There's so many men out there, and I'm not even talking about women right now because I know women struggle with bulimia, but there are so many men that are my age and younger that are struggling with what I did, and I'm not kidding you. I used to think that I was the only person in the world, a man, and I was like depressed and like I was ashamed of myself that I had an eating disorder and I was a man, throwing up in trash cans, eating a meal, throwing it up. Dude, I could eat like I could eat a cracker or like anything that wasn't, I thought, quote unquote, healthy. If it was in my body and I didn't feel like it needed to be there, I would go throw it up, dude. I can't imagine how long I was in a deficit, dude. But I had some serious abs, dude.
Yeah.
I had like veins in my abs, mate. I was depressed, miserable, very bad part of my life. I looked the best as far as I thought I did, but internally I was completely rotten, man. Like I wasn't healthy. I looked great, but I was not healthy as far as like from a physical standpoint. Like I felt awful. My stomach always hurt, always cramped, always stressed.
Social
isolation, sweated, got made fun of. I got called a rabbit because I was eating a salad at a dinner party one time with no dressing, just eating salad, like leaves, dude. Like just, anyway, I was so
It's an unsustainable goal being that ripped as well. Like, we're not designed to be like super ripped like that. And if you've ever been that ripped, you know what it feels like.
Yeah,
it sucks.
It sucks.
Like you're always hungry, and your knee goes down purely because you got left down, and you kind of just
get hurt too, man. Just get hurt. Yeah. Joints hurt. Nothing repairs.
Exactly.
Nothing repairs, dude.
Training suffers.
Sores on my body. If I got a cut or a sore on my body when I was that fucked up on my eating, it wouldn't repair itself. Yeah. It took forever for sores to repair themselves, and injuries to repair themselves. And one last thing. I speak for a company called Beautiful Minds now. I've been hired to speak. They pay me a lot of money to go speak to high school kids about this stuff because it is a problem. When I say high school kids, I talk to males about this. I don't even talk to girls. They've hired me to talk to males, and they fly me all over Australia to talk to people about eating disorders in males because it's that big of a problem. And it's not the issue that's the problem. It's the fact that we're not talking about it. And males find it very difficult to talk about it. I'm 36 years old. I dealt with this from when I was 18 to 26, 27. So I had 10 years of dealing with it. And that's the only reason I'm able to speak about it now is because I've gotten over it and I've beat it. But there's people out there literally struggling right now with what I struggled with for 10 years. And I'm here to tell you that you don't have to like talk about it like in the public, but like message me or like find a support group. The Beautiful Minds is the company that I'm involved with. They're on Instagram. Send me a message, talk to people. But at the end of the day, stop stressing about your body and stop comparing yourself to people on social media and be extremely careful where you derive your information from.
Yeah. And remember that the people on social media that have huge followings and they look amazing and they're ripped or whatever it is, remember that they are in the really high echelon of genetics. Like they're in
Or they're cheating.
Yeah, exactly. Or they're cheating. They're in the 0.5, like
Yeah.
0.005% of genetics in the world, and obviously they train hard and they look after their nutrition. But at the same time, most
Kind of
people
life
aren't
they
going to be
live.
able to get anywhere near that in terms of training. So,
And what are they giving up? What are they giving up in their life
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
have that
especially
body?
this time of year, like
Yeah,
it's
man.
Christmas,
Screw that.
guys.
Go enjoy yourself.
Like, go and enjoy yourself in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, because at the end of the day, you really should not be chasing a deficit this time of year.
James Smith. I'm going to read something James Smith put out because of this.
There's way too many things on at the moment, social engagements and fun stuff and good food.
Yeah.
Don't worry about a deficit at the moment. Worry about it in January.
We'll leave you with this.
Dessert, but, you know.
Because we're not going to meet before Christmas. So Merry Christmas to everyone,
Yeah,
or Happy
Merry
Holidays,
Christmas.
whatever you're into. This is from James Smith. I read this morning. This is regarding eating during the Christmas time. This comes from BBC Today. Social occasions should be prioritized over composition at this time of year.
Amen.
In years to
Amen.
come, you'll remember those times more than a six-pack at Christmas.
Yeah.
So basically, to simplify that, quit worrying about your body composition at times of the year like this and worry about having a good time, spending time with your friends and family, and just quit stressing and quit freaking trying to plan your New Year's resolution, because guess what? You can start your New Year's resolution at any time.
Yeah, I
So
completely
stop
agree.
worrying. Enjoy your Christmas. We are very happy that you tuned in with us today. We'll be back probably not next week. Actually, if you want to do a session next week, we can do it Monday and just knock it out. Do a quick one. Oh, you're away?
Yeah.
Okay, so Andrew's away. So I'll be back next week. I'll do a quick Christmas session to wrap up the year. And then we'll be back starting January. I'm in the States January 15th. But I'll be doing a podcast in the States. I actually have a really good podcast. I'm going to interview one of my buddies back home that's he's a big bodybuilder, been in the industry for years and years and years, and I'm going to have the steroid talk with him.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Nice.
and he's like an MMA fighter, like freaking love the guy.
Yeah.
It's a very good platform. He does very good things in the world. And he understands steroids, he understands the industry, he understands fitness. So like I want to dive into it and just talk to him about steroids and how its role in the fitness industry and blah 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 blah. But could get heated. He's a very passionate. He's a very very passionate person, and he's an MMA fighter, and he has cauliflower ears. So like I'm gonna be like ready to bounce out the door.
Yeah.
I do have a.
It's a weird look. When you first see someone with cauliflower.
Yeah, he's a wrestler and he can throw down. He used to be an MMA fighter. He can throw down.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's going to be next week. I can't wait to bring that. But we'll be back next year with Andrew. And if hopefully maybe I can get him on a remote session while I'm out of town.
Sweet.
All good?
Sounds good, man.
Appreciate you
Thanks,
coming back in. Thank you for listening. And I don't ask you for anything. I'm not selling you anything. All I'm asking you to do is to listen, for one, subscribe, and then bring me a friend. And if you can, go leave me a review on iTunes, because that's how we get ranked and that's how I get exposure. I'm not looking for sponsors. I'm just looking for people to reach to. That's it. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate you. Have a wonderful Wednesday and the rest of your week. Merry Christmas.